Hi, today we are going to discuss about basics of AEM Node. Let's start. What is Node and how it is used in AEM? Node you might have already studied as part of the data structure folder, where we usually create lot of graph based on this, and we came across like the shortest path between the node. So all these technologies, logical data structure algorithm also has been heavily uh, driven or kind of influenced by node. So you might have already some idea about the node, but in simple, node is a data point where we can put some value. Okay, and as part of AEM, node is a element, or it's part of a, it's kind of a element, or it can be taken as a data point, or it can be basically we can provide any value to a node, and that will define how it is being used inside an AEM. Okay, and in AEM everything is a node. In AEM everything is a node. Whatever you see is part of your project. Let If you are seeing a page information, if you are seeing a something like a JCR content information, that is a node. If you are seeing an image, that is a node. Every detail that we are going to put inside AEM, that is considered as an AEM, sorry, AEM node. Okay, and AEM follows the JCR specification provided by Java Content Repository, and it came from the Java specification, one of the Java specification, JCR specification. So it follows the JCR API. So considering that, we can tell these nodes as a AEM node or JCR node. So it follows the JCR specification. So sometime we call it JCR node, or you can just simply call as a node in AEM specific term. So I have shown two picture. The middle picture with the circles, these are actually a graph view of a tree node, and the same is being shown in the CRXD view. So we have already heard about the tree node. In tree, what can happen? So there will be a root node. Under the root node, there will be lot of branch nodes, and every branch node will have its sub branch node, and similarly it can continue till its leaf node. Okay, this is the high level of concept of a tree node, and the same concept is being used in AEM. Okay, where in AEM, if you see, whenever you install your AEM server, by default you will see a page that is AEM sites. Even under AEM site, all the project structure, project hierarchy also will be shown as a node only. In different column view, it will be having a node only. If you go to the CRXD view of your AEM server, every details in your server will be stored as a node only. Okay, and these are these can be called as CRX node, JCR node, or AEM node, or simple you can call as a node specific to AEM context. uh, yeah, so I hope a node on a basic level it is clear, and how it is being used or represented in AEM. Now we'll go to the next step, where when we consider a tree node, it will have a root node. So in our some cases, we can consider that will be the topmost parent node. And a node can be a parent, even it can be a child. When we can call that node as a parent, if it has lot of children under it, then we can call that node as a parent node. And if a children or if a node comes under a node, then those, so here if I have whatever the square box I have shown, right, these are considered as the children node or child nodes of content, where considering content and this box details, right, then we will mention content will be a parent node if your control is under one of these uh, child nodes. If you are under the child node, you can consider, yeah. So the content will be a parent node and these are the child node. It depends on the control where your control is. If your control is at the content, then that is considered as a parent and you can always access the child. Okay. But remember, if you are asking if the control is at the content, it is, if you need the child node, then this is considered as a parent node. But there, if you wanted to call its parent node, so the content's parent node will be the root node. Okay, so it depends on where your execution is, where your control is at that point of node. Then you can consider what will be the parent, what will be the child. So let's assume, I'll take one more example just to uh, clear myself. WKND, if you see here, this is the WKND. So for a WKND, the parent node is root node. Sorry, the parent node is content node, and JCR content and US, these are the child node. Okay, for WKND. Similarly, that continues for, if I come to US, for US, WKND is the parent node and JCR content and EN, these are the two child node of US. Okay, and in AEM or in JCR node, there can be lot of type of node. So it's just not node. The node also can have a type. If you see, there are some different icon you can see. Here it is a folder icon. Here it is a node icon. That three box. So in AEM, this is a basic node icon, and here it is a HTML web page icon. So based on its type, the icon is being shown, and a node can have different type. Okay, different type in the sense, a node based on its type, the node is denoted for some job. So here, if we see, right, it is just a basic node. Here it is a node, but it is a folder node. Apps is a folder node. Now here it is a web JCR content, page content node, US, EN. These are page content node, and here JCR content, it is considered as a page content node. And sorry, here it is a page node, and JCR content is a page content node. Okay, so every node will have its type and its value will be only single. So a node can be either empty folder or it can be empty file. It cannot be both. Okay, the node type value can be only single, it cannot be both. Okay, similarly, there are other attributes which can be a single valued or multi-valued. So there is one more example I have given here, mixin type. Mixin type is an attribute and its value can be empty, it can be single value property, and it can be multi-value property. So mixin type can have mix versionable, then then we can add one more attribute value inside that, that can be done. And when we give a single value property information, its value can be a string, its value can be long integer, its value can be date type, or its value can be a path or binary. When I am speaking about path or binary, path means it can have a path to a different node. So that's the value of path. That's the type of path we can provide. And binary in the sense, if we are storing, let's assume we are storing a image file under a node, so all the image content will be stored as a binary. Okay, these are the some of the basic attribute type, and every node can have its child node. I have already shown in the image. Now coming to little more details, I have given some example here also. A node have a type, and if you see, for example, a node of type CQ page must always have a child node. Okay, so there are some restriction also provided based on its type. So if we are creating a node as a CQ colon page as the node type, then it will automatically create, or it must create another node under its called JCR content, which should have the type value as CQ colon page content. This is the example I have already mentioned here. Whenever you create a page, right, automatically it will always create a JCR content under that. That's because that page node will have only some basic value of the page node, to denote that as a node, but all the page property will always have inside the JCR content node. So there are some job, those are specific to those node type, and based on that we have to make sure we create a proper node, or we um, make our operation on the node specific to that type. Okay. And similarly, there is one more point. Node can have many mixing type, as I have mentioned. No, not only mixing type, any attribute that we are providing to a node can have a single valued, no valued, or multi-valued. Okay, when it is multi-valued, it will be an array, and if it is a single valued, we can just give a type, and inside the type we can provide a value. And if it is a multi-valued, you can provide a string array, you can provide a date array. I mean, whatever the type with an array value can be provided, and those information can be fed as a multiple entries into that particular value field. Okay, a little more details I have already provided. You can go through this content also. I will add this particular sheet slide details URL into the description, so you can always go through that link. Here I have shown one example of the AEM node and its properties. So if you see the left side, number one, I have denoted WKND is the web page, and under that there is a node called JCR colon content. So when we click on the JCR content, the right side section will be appearing. That is the properties section of that particular node. And that properties section have right now in the viewport, I have shown around 7 properties, and it can have multiple properties. One of the one of the property type you see the number 7 is the JCR colon primary type, which is actually the node type. It denotes the node type. Okay, when we speak about node type, I have already given that example, right? CQ page content will denote the node type, and this denotes this is a node that should come under a page node, and it can have only the values related to or specific to that particular page only. Okay, and if you see JCR content, inside the JCR content, there are a lot of details we have provided, like CQ allowed template, CQ conf, CQ redirect target, and its type also it is mentioned: string array, string, date, name. So these can be the these are the information we can put inside each node. Okay, and these drives the property, not only the attribute or behavior of that node, also that execution, what is the role of that particular node. Based on these properties, the node job or responsibility can be always be evaluated. Okay, so if it is a JCR content, it must have the JCR primary type as a CQ page content, which denote it contains a value list of values for a specific page. In this case, WKND is that particular page, and it will have some mandatory attribute information. If whatever, if you see some of these properties, right, little grayed out, that means those are only read only. Okay, and how to see whether it is read only? If you see, there is a fourth column called protected. Those are true. Whichever are true, those are actually little faded. Okay, so what does that mean? Once you create that particular node, right, you cannot change those values. Those are kind of read only for notifying, okay, this is a node having the primary type as this, and it is created by this particular user, and it is created on this particular date timestamp, and that cannot be modified, because once it is created, we cannot modify the values. Okay, once you modify, right, there will be new attribute will be added, JCR modified, and another attribute will be added, JCR modified by. So that kind of values will be added, but this created will be still there, and we cannot edit it. That's where it is mentioned as a protected. Now there are other attribute you will be able to see, that is CQ-con, CQ redirect target, CQ template. So these values can be edited. That's where the protected information column is completely false. And there are other attribute information also can be provided here, like mandatory, multiple, auto created. All these information also can be provided based on it. There are some behavior for each node. So some of the values can be seen based on its behavior. You can always check for each node what is the value, and you can evaluate yourself. But I'll give some basic details. Protected means whether that is a read only or not. It is protected to edit, so you cannot go ahead and edit those values. Mandatory means you have to provide those values. If you see, the JCR primary type is mandatory. Without that, a node cannot exist. That's where the mandatory is has been marked as true. Everything else can be there, can may not be there also. Okay, now multiple values in the sense, wherever we are providing an array value, that is true, multiple attribute is true, and everywhere else it is false, because every only the first row having the multiple value string array. Okay, now the last is the auto created. Auto created in the sense, whenever we create a node, if it is automatically creating some of the properties, then that's where the it is showing the properties value as the auto created as true. Okay, so whenever we are creating the wknd page, automatically this JCR content node will be creating, and as part of that, these three 5 6 7 attribute will be fifth 6 7 attribute will be automatically created. That's where that auto created value is true. Now going to the same next slide. So here I have shown whatever values we have seen in this particular view, the same information is being shown in the our code level. So in whatever the value we are showing, looking at this proper under the property section, right? The same values you will be able to see under the dot content XML file. And in AEM, every everything will be stored as a dot content XML, and the folder will be considered as the node name. Under that folder, there will be a file name called dot content XML, and every folder will have same file name, that is dot content XML, which tells, okay, these are the properties specifies or comes under this particular node. So now here, whatever I have shown, WKND is the uh, node. However, under that, there is a dot content XML which denotes its property and its child node as well. Now, if you see, there is something called JCR content. Okay, there is something called JCR content node, that is line number 4 to line number 18. That is actually the JCR node that comes under the WKND page. So you might be, do not get confused. Sometime the node are part of inside the file itself. Like if you see, there is a JCR content folder, but its values are always stored in the dot content XML only. Okay, and sometime these node will have a different structure. So like if you see, right, conf is a node, content is a node, dam is a node, and every node will have its own dot content XML file, and it might have only the values to specific to that node. It might not have the values to the child node, and sometime dot content XML might have. So here in this case, right, WKND is a node of CQ page type. Okay, and which we see at the line number 3 in the dot content XML. This means it tells it has two node. So the two node in the sense, sorry, two node information. Okay, so WKND is the node. Under that, there is a dot content XML which denotes the may this node information contains whatever the file content we see under the dot content XML, right? Okay, just to I don't just to be in a simple word, WKND is the node, and dot content XML provides the information of this particular node, WKND node. Okay, now what is the information? So there is this node has some values. What are the values? One is the JCR primary type, that is a line number 3, which which tells about the current node in the sense WKND. Now it has some child, and that child, one of the child node is JCR content. Okay, whenever a child node is or child node information provided under the dot content XML, directly that child node name will be put as part of the XML attribute. Okay, JCR colon content. Okay, that will be put directly. Okay, but if the values are not put, if it mm, when the dot content XML do not contain any of the child node values, then it will have only attribute something like JCR primary type. So now just to make little more simpler, again I will just describe it, because it looks little confused when we come from this view to this view. Here, if you see, right, WKND is one node and it has a child which clearly visible that JCR content is a node, and under JCR content there is one more node image. However, when we come here, right, here it is a little confusing. WKND is a folder that can be seen, and it has a dot content XML. That is okay, as I have spoken. Like every folder will have its dot content XML, which contains the property. But here at the code level, right, dot content XML not only contain the property of the WKND node, it contains the property, the child node, and its property also is containing by the dot content XML, and that depends on what kind of node it is. Okay, uh, so what I meant related to depends on the type of node, in the sense, if we are creating a page, automatically JCR content is being created. This means whenever we are creating a certain type of node, and if it has certain kind of a requirement to contain its child node, based on that, those values will be part of the dot content XML only, rather than creating the child folder and child folder and under that dot content XML. Okay, it depends on the node type or the specific role of that particular node. So I hope this is clear. So whenever you see a node structure in the CRXD view and a node structure in your code level AEM project view, it might differs a little bit, but need not to be confused. Always you can clarify your doubt based on the JCR primary type. If you see here, in this particular view, the JCR primary type tells CQ page content. However, in this particular view, the JCR primary type of the JCR node is under the JCR content node, which is, if I point out, line number 9. Line number 9 tells JCR column primary type equal to CQ column page content. Then, what is the JCR primary type of the WKND? That is at the line number 3. JCR primary type equal to CQ page is the primary type of the WKND. Okay. I hope this is clear at this level, and need not to be confused anytime. Whenever you are providing any information here, the same information will be coming to here in the CRXD view. And remember, even though some of the properties are protected or kind of mandatory, but it can be modified in the dot content XML, because it's just a file you can modify, and you can just push this file to the AEM server, and automatically the value will be changing. However, in the CRXD level, they will be protected, and the mandatory field will be edge for your dot content XML file information. So, dot content XML file do not restrict to edit or anything. There is some level of check is being done whenever we are doing a build, but this does not restrict us to modify the JCR primary type value. So you have to keep in mind, do not change the primary type if it is already created, and any of the mandatory field you have to provide the value before you doing a build. or whenever you are editing this particular file. Okay, you have to keep in mind, and it is always recommended to edit in your IDE or at the AEM project code level. Then you push the changes to server. Do not do the change always preferably in CRXD, although sometime it feels developer feel more comfortable to work on CRXD. However, it is not recommended. There will be some side effect of that, and usually I have seen, even in my initial days, I have feel myself whenever we are making some changes in CRXD, it always gets lost whenever we are doing build. Okay. If you have done a lot of effort in the CRXD, you miss to take them into your IDE, you will always lose those changes. That kind of issues might occur. That's where it is always recommended, always make your changes in IDE, then push it to your server, preferably. Okay, next, going to the next step. Now here, this is one of the important concept called namespaces. What is a namespace? In XML, sorry, in XML, namespace is an important concept. Just to give an example, so this, whatever you see in the screen, dot content XML, right? It is an XML file, and XML file have its own structure, that it always have a root node, and every node can have its attribute, and under the node we can add some values, and under the node, other than the value, even it can have some child node as well. But for make these executable or identifiable, there are some namespace conventions are being used for the XML structure. Every XML contain lot of namespaces. They rely on the namespace to to run or to perform some specific role, uh, and it can be identified very uniquely for its job. So now to give you the example, if you see, there are a lot of property attribute you see. The names are CQ colon allowed template, CQ colon conf, CQ colon redirect target. So what is that CQ colon? Why not it's just allowed template? Well, that's where the concept is. This is a concept related to XML. So XML always rely on a specific convention called namespace, and every namespace will have some kind of a specification or kind of a guideline, or more kind of a rule. It always follow a rule. What is that? What is mean by that? So every XML always follows some kind of a namespace, and those are named as XMLNS. Okay, XMLNS in the sense XML namespace. If you see line number 2, right? JCR colon root, which is the attribute node name. Then there is a attribute called XMLNS colon sling. So it tells XMLNS is the namespace, uh, that is the identifier kind of a to just identify that we are going to give a namespace. Okay, it's like how we are creating a value, right? Variable in Java. So if whenever we are giving a int variable, so we always use int. So it is kind of a keyword for that. Okay, XMLNS is a keyword. Then we are providing a key value. Sling is the key, and the value is http colon double slash sling apache.org. Basically, we're giving a URL to identify that particular attribute. Okay, so we cannot write everywhere, right? This whole URL value we cannot write everywhere wherever we wanted to write an attribute. That this particular attribute comes under sling.apache.org, that whole URL. So you assume wherever it is written sling colon redirect status, right? We have to replace that sling with this http colon double slash link dot apache dot org. That whole URL we have to replace. So Instead of doing that, what it is being doing, we are taking a namespace sort name, that is xmlns sling, and we are giving that whole value of that sling. Now wherever we wanted to use this particular whole URL, we are using directly sling. Okay. And so what does it mean? Whatever we have provided as sling colon redirect, right? That particular attribute comes under Apache Sling API, or Apache Sling has provided that particular attribute. So based on that, that particular attribute's role will be identified or executed. Okay. So sling colon redirect will be always be used by the sling API. It can be accessed by sling API and it can be executed by sling API only. Similarly, JCR has its JCR API and it has provided uh, some specific attribute like primary type, JCR title, JCR description, lot of information, lot of attribute which are specific to JCR API. Now Sling has provided specific to Sling API. CQ has provided to when so earlier to AEM it was part of CQ, right? So CQ has provided their own attribute. So these attribute, these namespace control the attribute name. And when I'm speaking attribute name, those are the predefined attribute name provided by that particular organization. So whenever it is mentioned Sling, so Sling is provided some of the attribute name which is controlled by the Sling API. Now for JCR provided by like primary type, title, description, these are provided by JCR API and it can be controlled by the JCR API. And all that information has been uh, put together in this particular file, and XML works in this particular way. Uh, I, I this is kind of a XML concept. It's not very important to know only. It's not mandatory to know whole details of it, but at a high level, you must know that this XML namespaces are important and it has to be there as part of the XML. If you do not keep it them right, then it might throw error. So let's assume I am not writing that sling ns xml ns colon sling at the line number 2 and I am using sling colon redirect, then your XML will start throwing error and it might not even compile successfully as part of the AEM project. So that kind of issue might appear. So you should always aware that these namespaces are quite important and it is important for the execution at the AEM level. Okay. I won't go much more details about it. If you need more details about it, I can create a separate video on the XML structure. And if required, I can provide some resources on the XML documentation as well. You can always go to the XML documentation and how XML works, what is the guideline, all those you can always explore. Next, here these are the list of namespaces that is by default or like out of the box being used as part of AEM. And there is no customized namespace as of now, but we can create customized namespaces as well if you want. uh, it depends completely on you. If you do understand about namespace, you can introduce. Otherwise, it is recommended not to use any other customized namespaces. You can directly give the attribute and you can always access the attribute using any of those API, JCR API or Sling API. Let's go to the next step. So there are some information I have put as part of this particular sheet to give some details about each namespace and attribute type. You can always go through these details. Every archetype can have its own folder structure. So always go to the latest like AEM project archetype, create the project structure based on the latest archetype so that it will be easier for you to understand. Okay. Here I have shown a image where it is being shown like what is the use of slash apps slash content slash leaves and how it is being used in AEM. Okay, and these are specific details on the content, conf, etc, home. So there are a lot of node under AEM, and I have put some more details on the AEM on this particular specific node type also. You can always explore about it. I'm not going through each of node details because the video will be quite lengthy. In case you need on any of these specific node type, its job role or its execution role, that then I can do a some small video on those only specific node types only, and that will be much helpful. And I have provided some details. I will provide this particular document URL in the description. You can always go through it, and you can explore more resources in Adobe documentation as well if you need. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, then give a thumbs up. Thank you.